Hi, I'm Larry Powell. Welcome to Planet in Peril, a presentation of Nipawin Access Community Television. In case you think our new title is a bit over the top, please hear me out. Momentous events have been occurring since we last reported to you on the environment on this station. Events we think might just change your mind. Mo Sabawi captured this inferno from his backyard in Los Angeles just weeks ago. His time-lapse video, seen here with his kind permission, shows the Sand Canyon wildfire nipping at the edges of America's second-largest city. It's been just one of countless similar disasters which have plagued California since a severe drought set in there 5 long years ago. The fires have reduced thousands of homes and businesses, indeed entire neighborhoods, to rubble. They've forced tens of thousands from their homes and likely caused damages into the billions of dollars. It's all been eerily similar to the destruction faced by the poor people of the Fort McMurray region of Alberta in May and in other widely separated parts of the world as well. But the damage done directly by the flames may not be the whole story. A new study by Harvard University suggests that massive smoke clouds from the Alberta fires have caused respiratory illnesses in communities more than 1,600 kilometers away. The new study coins a new ominous term, smoke wave. That's when you inhale the tiny airborne particles created in such fires that can lead over time to chronic disease and even early death. The study estimates that 82 million people may suffer from smoke waves in the future in the western U.S. alone. Sadly, the same unrelenting heat and historic drought that's spawning the forest fires is in other ways killing millions of trees in the Sierra Mountains of the western U.S. and California's central coast. In the words of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the trees are stressed from higher temperatures, competition for water, and exploding populations of bark beetles. They simply can't withstand this deadly combination of stressors and are rapidly turning orange and dying. Even with the increased rainfall this past year, stressed trees will continue to die because, while green, they've been invaded by the beetles and just don't know they're dying yet. A similar tragic story has been unfolding for many years in forests around the world, including Canada. Here, though, U.S. crews take down dead and dying trees to make protective breaks in case of fire. Flooding, wildfire's evil twin. It's been doing its dirty work too. This is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Torrential rains and swollen rivers turned the area into an inland sea in August. To quote the Red Cross, it's likely the worst natural disaster in the U.S. since Superstorm Sandy in 2012. The governor says more than 60,000 homes have been flooded. Thousands of residents still live in temporary shelters as the floodwaters recede. And in a flat state like this, with little place for the water to drain, that has taken an agonizingly long time. The flood has claimed the lives of about a dozen people. Compensation to victims will cost many millions. This state has been at ground zero for severe weather events for some time. Rising sea levels attributed to climate change have been eroding vast areas of its Gulf Coast, and it was just about a decade ago that Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans and area in the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. So how can this be? Torrential rains and flooding getting worse, while their polar opposites, droughts, wildfires, and heat waves, are doing the same. It just doesn't seem logical. After all, how logical or fair is it that thousands of Fort Mac residents lost their homes or were forced from them by wildfires fed by tinderbox conditions in the spring, when only 3 years earlier their fellow Albertans in Calgary and area suffered through the worst flooding in that province's history. While struggling for answers, many of us, including the media, tend to blame Mother Nature and leave it at that. But science, in this case the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, The UN body considered the leading authority on the topic has a different idea, one that's perhaps not as comfortable, since it lays the blame closer to our own feet and the way we live on Earth as humans. The amount of fossil fuels we burn continues to go up. Thanks to the heat-trapping greenhouse gases which these produce, so too does the average temperature of land and sea. Since warmer air can hold much more moisture than the cooler kind, what might have been a gentle shower turns into a raging torrent that does great damage to infrastructure, people, and the natural environment. Records show that both floods and heat waves are on the increase. Alberta seems to be a good example of that. Europe is another. In 2002, there were record floods, followed a year later by record heat waves and droughts. Thousands died. Experts, usually reluctant to tie any single event to climate change, did do just that in that case. Sadly, those same experts are predicting more of the same, perhaps even worse in future, if we don't change our ways. As man-made climate change heats up the planet, the temperatures soared to 54 degrees Celsius in Kuwait this summer. That's 129 Fahrenheit, the hottest ever recorded in the Eastern Hemisphere and quite possibly on Earth since the human record began in the late 1800s. Places in Iraq and India were close behind. Worldwide, last year was the warmest year on record, and this year is on track to easily surpass even that. So, as someone recently said, heat records are not just being broken, they're being obliterated. Scientists from the Max Planck Institute in Germany and the Cyprus Institute in Nicosia are predicting that parts of the Middle East and Africa, which they call MENA, could within this century become uninhabitable for humans and other living things if we don't reduce our use of fossil fuels. To quote their report, we conclude that MENA is a climate change hotspot that could turn into a scorching area in summer. There is general consent that heat extremes impact human health, contribute to the spreading of food and waterborne diseases, and that more intense heat waves increase premature mortality. Similar predictions are now being made for Western Asia as well. Manitoba has seen its share of epic flooding in recent decades. While this summer wasn't on that scale, we have had some wacky weather in recent times, which some are calling the new normal. Heavy rain and hail did a number on some farms in July and August. Excess moisture damaged some field crops and spawned blight like this in quite a few vegetable gardens. Wildfires drove cottagers out in the Whiteshell and even forced a class of high school students to flee their graduation exercises at a Manitoba First Nation. Several tornadoes touched down, like this one on Long Plain near Portage, forcing a prolonged evacuation from several heavily damaged homes. Pimatuan Aki, the land that gives life. A dream 12 years in the making, a dream which came tantalizingly close to reality this summer, but now on hold. It's a plan put forth by several First Nations, along with the governments of Manitoba, Ontario, and Canada. It would see over 33,000 square kilometers of boreal forest designated by the United Nations as a World Heritage Site, a place of special cultural and physical significance. It would stretch from eastern Manitoba into western Ontario, but one of the First Nations, Pikangikum, a remote band in western Ontario, withdrew its support in June after pointing out unexplained errors in the application. We've attempted to contact Pikangikum to clarify, but have gotten no response so far. UNESCO, the UN branch involved, has now referred the project. That means it's still alive and may be resubmitted for consideration within the next 3 years. Sophia Rebeliakis has been prominent in the campaign for World Heritage designation. She's featured in the following video produced some time ago. We believe it still provides an excellent insight into the reason such a designation seems so important.
The boreal forest unfurls across Canada like a lush tapestry, from Newfoundland to the Yukon. What the rainforest is to tropical climates, the boreal is to North America, providing vital carbon, oxygen, and water resources. And at the heart of the boreal, on the eastern shore of Lake Winnipeg, is Poplar River, an indigenous community of 1,200 people. For much of the year, the only way in or out is by air.
It is very important for families to do things together, doing our gatherings together, and that's something that we are slowly bringing back to the community. There was a lot of pride in that.
Sophia Rebeliakis was born here. She works as a student guidance counselor, and her connection to the land flows through her like the Poplar River itself.
The land is very important to us.
Our people have been able to sustain ourselves with the bounty of Mother Earth, the animals, the four-leggeds, the winged ones, the ones underwater, without destroying it.
Everything that we do is about the land. We're part of that land. That means if we lose that land, we won't survive as a people. This is our traditional territory.
Since 1999, Sophia has helped lead her community in securing interim protection
Hello, girls.
of 2 million acres of undisturbed forest. But they knew more had to be done to protect their territory permanently.
Poplar River First Nation has spent the last decade preparing and taking specific technical steps, combining their traditional knowledge with the kind of science and tech that we all expect to see in lands plans. It says these are our lands, and it's our job to take care of them.
There's more to our lives than just living on the reserve. This land belongs to Poplar River First Nation. It always has and it always will. We can make those plans for ourselves.
The Poplar River Protected Area is still currently under Manitoba government jurisdiction, so it's at risk for lease to hydropower companies for dams or for timber and mining operations. The boundaries of this land were first established generations ago by local fur trappers.
The Creator gave us this land to survive from and respect, and it's important that I pass on my knowledge of it to younger people. We have to do what we can to protect that land. The land management plan is a good thing, and we must work for conservation.
The traditional knowledge held by Poplar River elders was vital as Sophia spearheaded the community's data-gathering efforts. It helped yield a treasure of details about the ecology, history, and archaeology of the area.
We've done a number of archaeological studies in the area. We found a number of arrowheads that give us an idea of the different time periods that people have been in the area for the last 6,000 years.
With this and other data at hand, the Poplar River Working Group painstakingly produced a series of detailed maps used in their comprehensive land management plan. They've used it as a tool in pursuing their battle for permanent protection status from the government.
And it has been a big challenge for us to work with the government. We are very patient in working with them, and our patience is wearing thin, and I think it's about time that they recognize the work that we've done. Land protection for us means that it's our livelihood.
Sophia feels the rich cultural history of her people, and their reputation as wise stewards of the land make them the most logical choice for determining its future use.
We have to maintain that land the way it is, the boreal forest intact. And we have that responsibility to take care of that land. It really depends on our survival. We are the land.
Along with this land management victory, the people of Poplar River are concurrently seeking a UNESCO World Heritage status for an even larger region of the First Nations boreal forest. For outstanding environmental achievement in North America, the 2007 Goldman Environmental Prize is awarded to Sophia Rabliakis, Poplar River, Manitoba, Canada.
Since then, Manitoba's new Premier, Brian Pallister, has announced his government may reroute Bipole 3, a major energy corridor already being built down the west side of Lake Winnipeg, to the east side. That would place it within the boundaries of the proposed World Heritage Site. What this would do to the dreams of people like Sophia for a more undisturbed, pristine area remains to be seen. Meet the new Mercedes-Benz Urban e-Truck. It has an electrically driven rear axle powered by 3 lithium-ion batteries. This zero-emission vehicle has a range of 200 kilometers, definitely more suited for short hauls than long ones, but it's only an experimental model or prototype so far. How much noise does it make? According to its German manufacturer, hardly a whisper. Obviously, a lot of rubber will have to hit the road before any such trucks will be seen in Canada, at least outside our major cities. Just too many hurdles to overcome, including our vast distances, economics, technical challenges like charging stations, and not the least of which, public attitudes and political will. Comparing Canada to Germany is a bit like comparing apples to oranges, but that's not to say we don't have something to learn from them. Here in Canada, as Ottawa and the provinces squabble over how best to tackle climate change, Germany has implemented a ban on any cars that burn gasoline in that country by the year 2030. For more stories like this, I hope you'll visit my blog. I'm Larry Powell for NACTV on the Yellowhead Highway in Nipawin, Canada, planet Earth. Have a green day.